All right. Hi, guys. It's great to be here again. Welcome to our first ever Uzbek Diaspora resume building workshop. As you guys know, in the past, we've had a lot of different events, whether it's interview series or just networking events, but we've never had a resume building workshop. And we've been planning this for a while. So Shakhlo and I are very excited to host this today. And
Mhm.
disclosure, we're by no means experts. We're not in the HR recruiting business, but our resumes personally have gotten us this far, I guess, in life. And, we've attended a lot of workshops where we were able to learn from professionals. So we just wanted to share our expertise and our knowledge with you, just, and try to benefit you in any way that we can.
For
So,
sure. I
yeah, as you guys know,
to
yeah,
I
we're
want
going
to
to just
say
talk
a little bit
about.
hello as well to everybody as we are super excited to host this event. Me and Shakhodat have been planning about this event for a very long time, and we have been asked about this event for a very long time because it's a very important tool for people to make sure your resumes are up to date or just to refresh it a little bit. And we're just super excited to host this event and yeah, and have you guys on board.
So, again, as we mentioned, your resume is the most important document you'll probably ever submit in your job search, and it's your frontline fighter, so to speak. So, it's your first opportunity to present yourself to a potential employer. So, hiring managers, as many of you might know, only look at resumes for an average of only 6 to 7 seconds each. So, it's really important that you make every second count. And a strong resume can help you stand out from the crowd, but also a weak resume can remove you from running. So, really gotta emphasize the importance of resume here. So now Shakla and I can go ahead and introduce ourselves a little further, just our backgrounds. You can talk about your internships that you've gotten through your successful resume and
Mhm.
job and so forth. So.
For sure. I think I can start with that too. I think a lot of you already might know me. My name is Ziyodullaeva, and I have been part of Uzbek Diaspora for a long time now. But in the past, I have had different internships, more in marketing and fashion and finance. And I think that the most important thing, and for me to kind of get to the next stop, it was a lot about my resume. And I think that I started getting a lot of roles just when I started working on my resume. So in the past, I have worked with brands as media brands and Orion. Currently, I'm at Orion, but I have worked at different marketing companies such as Saatchi and Saatchi, which is very well known for marketing work people. But I think that the real success or just really where I got it from was also because I was part of a lot of Uzbek organizations, different organizations where we helped a lot of students, to kind of like build their resumes because of the importance of it. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and we will move on to Khudat now.
Yeah, so just a little background. I went to Marist College in upstate New York, where I majored in business administration, specifically finance. I had a minor in psychology. So, as you know, the finance world is very competitive. Getting good jobs are, I guess the process is very competitive. So, resume was always very important to me. And when I first started college as a freshman, when I look back at my resume, I realized just how much work I've done throughout the past 4 years. So, your resume may not be perfect now, and you're going to continue to improve it as you get more experience, as you realize more about, a perfect resume. So, the point is, though, throughout my 4 years in college, I was able to improve my resume, and it helped me get 3 different internships, including my internship as an external audit analyst at EY, and I was also an internal audit analyst at JP Morgan and Chase, and I also worked as a financial analyst in IBM. So when I was applying for all of these jobs, I had to make sure that my resume is specific to the job that I'm applying for, so then my chances of getting selected are higher. So currently, I work at Wells Fargo as a private bank analyst, and again, use the same resume, just slightly improved. And today we'll be sharing about all the tips Shahla and I know
Mhm.
about resumes. So we will have Shahla share her screen. I should have probably not even introduced myself because my resume is going to be up. So you guys will see everything that I just mentioned.
I will share the screen right now, but also I have to say that how impressive Shakhodat's background is. That's
Thank
just like
you.
awesome, and we have a lot to learn from Shakhodat. Let me try to squeeze this a little bit.
Yeah, let's see if we can zoom in more just because StreamYard ruins the quality, guys. So hopefully you can see
Yes,
this.
exactly.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if we mentioned this, since this is a live workshop. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll respond as we go.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, again, Shahadat is an amazing. I know, like you have such a great background, to be honest, and to have that experience from, EY to JP Morgan to Wells Fargo, that's very, very impressive. So we need all of her tips and tricks for that. But I think that I could also like talk a little bit about. So I will kind of like start with the contact and a little bit about like the resume part, and we will go from one to one, I guess. So I will start with like the beginning of like the importance of like contacts and names and the education, and I think Shakhodat can then speak about like the experience part and other parts of the resume.
And
So
Shahlo, just before you get started, sorry to interrupt, but you can see that the format is a little messed up on your end too, right?
mm,
Yeah, so I think, guys, so sorry, it's just technological issues. They always come up. The format with the dates on the right and locations of the jobs you see it has been shifted one to the right. So
mhm.
the format is a little bit messed up. Just try to
Yes.
keep that in mind as we go.
Yes.
But it's okay. It's a
Mhm.
reminder. All right.
Apologies about that, but I'm sharing my screen right now. But so yeah, the first important part that we really wanted to share this resume, because this is such a perfect resume of like, and it shows and it's super clear, and we wanted to make sure that that's the important part of it. So the first part, if you guys can take a look, is that how clear the name is, and I think we wanted to really like put that out there and make sure that you have your phone number and your email, or like a place that they can really reach out to. And I think that that was like super important for us, because a lot of the times students really forget to like put their phone number or like, I don't know, email, or have, I guess, like mispronounce it. And we wanted to make sure that we empathize on how important it is, because that's the way they find you, right? They reach out to you. So it's super important. And a lot of the times, I think that one thing I also learned is you want to go with a name that you're comfortable using and make sure that they can reach out to you with. So it's super important that you include all of those things. And also your LinkedIn account, if you have one, if you have a professional one, make sure to use that and make sure you put that, because a lot of the times the information they can find in your resume, they will find it in your LinkedIn account. So it's super important to put that down and make sure that it's there. So the next part, the huge part, is also your education. I think that it's super important when you're applying to internships or any kind of like your first job or second job. It's super important to make sure you have your education, which school you went to, your, I guess, your degree, and if you have a really good GPA, it's also important to put that down, just so you know they know your GPA is. But I have also heard that if your GPA is kind of anything lower than 3.0, it's okay to not really put that, because if it's lower, it's fine. But if it's higher than that, for sure, you have to put it down. It's a great accomplishment. And also let them know what your major is, your minor is. Another tip that I really think is really great is that sometimes if you do not fit, or if you do not qualify that for that job, they might have something else that may qualify your background. So it's really good to like, have any minors that you have, or any kind of like, even if it's like very similar to Shakhodat, where she took psychology as a minor, right? That's an amazing accomplishment. It's great that she put that there, even though it's not really related to what she's doing right now. I think it's a great way to just like put it there, and make sure it's there. And also another really important thing is the fact that any kind of like honors you've gotten, right? Any kind of like scholarship you have gotten, it's really important to put that, because it shows that people have invested in you, and that the company can invest on you as well. So I think that that was like really another big tip that I really wanted to give, because I have worked with a lot of mentors where they have emphasized the importance of like putting any kind of scholarships you have, any kind of money you have gotten towards your education. It's really good to put, because it's like, somebody have trusted in you, somebody have given you a scholarship because they see, I guess, a future in you, or they believe in you. So I think it's a great way to show companies that you have worked hard and people have invested in you, schools have invested in you. So I think that's pretty good. So it's pretty much it for my tips.
Yeah, no, thank you for that great information, Shahlo. I guess I can get us going with the experience part, which to me is the most important part of the, applying for a job, because this really shows, up until this point, what kind of experience, whether it's relevant or irrelevant, have you gotten to help you perform this job well. So when it comes to experience, you want to use numbers. You want to quantify everything you've done that speaks to your results. So maybe, instead of just saying, oh, I was helping customers, you could quantify it and say, I have helped 50 customers per day, exceeding the expectation by 10 customers per day, something like that, that shows what the expectation was, how you exceeded it, and just use numbers, really use numbers. And then, list out a few bullet points. So it really depends on how many job experiences you have. Obviously, if you have a lot of different job experiences, then you won't be able to fit as many bullet points underneath. But then if you only have one or two, then try to describe the job and how you really contributed and what you really learned from it under the bullet points. And then to the right, you want to have the location, like a physical location of the job. And if it was remote, it's totally fine to either put the headquarters of the company. That's what I've done for a few of these, as EY, JP Morgan, all of those internships were completely remote. So I just put where the company was headquartered, and then you want to put the dates, where the date that you started and the date that you finished. And then you see this resume is not so up to date because JP Morgan still says up to present for me, but your most recent job would be, the date you started and then the date you finished, or would just say present. What else? And it's really good to have the dates right, aligned to your job on the right. I know sometimes people have it connected to their job title or the name of the company, which is fine too. Just try to, whenever you're creating your resume, try to think of it as what looks better. And when a person looks at it for, let's say, a couple of seconds, what's the best format to use for the person to be able to easily pick up on the important stuff. So going forward, what do we have? I guess if we scroll down a little bit, we would have our leadership and extracurricular activities. And Shakhlo, if you have anything that I missed as I'm going through this, feel free to add. As we said, this is a workshop, so we're doing this all live.
For sure. Yeah, I think that another thing that we were really like focused on is to make sure that every experience you have has numbers, like how you have helped the company to make sure that they have reached that potential, right? Any kind of numbers is really valuable. And I think that I really do agree with everything that you have said about, make sure that the location is there, how many experiences you have, make sure also like you use very, very, I guess, smart words, or just like words that really describe what you have done, so that would be really helpful. But another thing that was actually I wanted to touch base on was this question that somebody asked was that is it possible to make resume without work experience? I mean, you could answer that, but I could also add on to that if you want.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So I think that you think you don't have experience, but you do. Literally anything, any kind of like activity you have done outside of school, even if it's after school program, it doesn't have to be college. It can be just like, key club or some kind of club that you were part of, or some kind of, I know that if you are in Uzbekistan, finding those kind of activities is super hard, but like, even I feel like being able to take on like extra tutoring classes, or just like helping the school with the community work. I think that still counts. And also, a lot of the times people think that just having, regular jobs isn't an enough experience. But in many ways, it is, like even having a job as a cashier is a very good way to show that you have a customer experience. So it's like a customer service experience. So I think that in a lot of ways where we don't think that we do have experience, but we actually do. So I think that really also depends on like, oh, like going back again and like really looking at like some of the things you have done, you know.
Yeah, no, that was a great point. That's something I was gonna actually mention. Obviously, you see this resume with all of these experiences now, but when I was a freshman in college, I didn't have any of these experiences. So, to Shahla's point, that's exactly what I did. I tried to think of any volunteer experiences maybe
Mm-hmm.
that I had, or any leadership where I was, leading some kind of effort, or anything I've done for my high school to improve the high school, or some kind of club that was part of my high school journey. So, then it's okay for you not to have the work experience if you're still young. But if you're at an age maybe where your peers already have work experiences, then try to go and get some kind of work experience. Maybe try applying for an unpaid internship. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many internships that are hiring analysts unpaid, just because, I mean, you're coming in, helping them, getting experience, and they don't have to
Mm-hmm.
pay you. Why not? It's amazing for them. And I know of so
For
many internships
sure.
like that. So try to get that kind of experience if you can. And
Yes. And there
yeah,
are a lot of like volunteer experiences too. Like, a lot of the times, a lot of people do need volunteers to help them with the community or anything like that. For example, I was a volunteer at a hospital and it was unpaid, of course, but it has nothing to do with where I am right now. But it was also like a small experience that I had that I put it, as to show that I have had a little experience. But those are some of the examples that we wanted to give.
yeah,
And maybe I think we can go to another questions that we got.
just before we move on, while we're on this section, um, whenever you're using these little bullet points, as we mentioned earlier, you want to use these words that stand out, like insured or evaluated and participated. But my point was, make sure to use the same tense. If, for example, the job was from June to July of 2021, which means
Mhm.
it's past, you want to use past tense. You want to make sure that it's, instead of evaluate, it's evaluated. But if it's a job that you're in now, then you can use present, present, and talk about it like assess risk or
Mhm.
participate, because you're currently doing those things. So just keep that in mind. And the jobs usually go from most recent to least recent. So your most recent job should be on the higher upper part of the resume. So then the recruiter sees that before they see your older jobs. So just
Mhm.
keep that in mind.
For sure. Great answer. Thanks, Shakhodat. Another question that I really liked actually, do we create like the CV for specific job, or is it better to do one CV for all work positions? Do you want to answer that, or
Yeah, I can take a stab at it. To be honest, personally, there weren't that many cases for the jobs where I've applied
Mhm.
where they required a CV. So
Mhm.
maybe it really depends on what kind of line of business or field you're in. But for me, there were a few instances where to stand out, I tried to use a CV, and I had one that was general that just had the most important things about me sectioned out. But every time I would apply for a specific job, I would try to change it around and update it using the keywords from that specific job post. So then,
Mhm.
specific to the job I'm applying for. Because if it sounds very irrelevant and it's very broad, they will know. They will know that this is just something you're using for all the jobs, and your
Mhm.
chances of getting it reviewed are higher if you are using the right verbiage and if you are using the right terms to help them
For sure,
match.
for sure. I totally agree with that. And I think that one thing we have to also agree is that I'm not sure if you saying that CV is resume or if it's a cover letter. But in both cases, I think that it's definitely much better to specify most of the things. Like, let's say if you're applying for marketing roles, but if you're also applying for finance roles, you would need different things you have to, include. Like in finance positions, mostly you want to make sure you have Excel experience, right? You're really good at it because that's what you will be using, or whatever they are requiring you to have, like Tableau experience, Salesforce experience. And you wouldn't really need that for a marketing position, right? For a marketing position, you would need like different kind of experiences. So it's really good to specify it and make sure that you have those like points, or you have those like important words that they're looking for, to have that in your resume. And also another thing we wanted to talk about, sorry to say that, Shakhodat, but we were talking about those like this machine, right?
Oh
That like,
yeah,
yeah,
ATS.
yes, you can talk about it if you want a little.
Oh yeah, the applicant tracking system is that's
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. This is a good time to talk about it. Many of you might already know of an applicant tracking system that a lot of companies use. As I
Mhm.
said, if a company is huge and they have these competitive internship or like job programs, then they're gonna get hundreds, maybe even thousands of resumes, and recruiters might not review every single resume for a few seconds. So then they might use a system that helps them best match resumes that are suitable for the position. So this
Mhm.
is where it becomes so important that you use the keywords from the job post. If it says requirements of the job, proficient in, I don't know, Python, Java, then you want to have those mentioned under your skills or somewhere in the resume to best fit the job requirements, and your chances of getting selected for the job will be higher. And while we're here, I do want to mention that most of the time that I apply for a job, sent in my resume, I've also networked on the side. It always helps when you get to talk to someone from the company, tell them that you've applied, obviously network first and try to do it in a way that makes sense. But you tell them, I'm so interested in the company, I want to learn more, I have sent in my resume. And sometimes these people really want to refer candidates who have so much potential, and they may refer you to the recruiter, in which case, if you already submitted your resume, they will just pull it up and look at it closely, as opposed to if you never talked to anybody and maybe your resume got excluded from the whole process and they will never.
Mhm.
So just wanted to mention that as well.
Exactly. We might do another event about networking as well, because that's such a huge part of like getting hired as well. Like we can definitely agree on the fact that we have gotten so much more opportunities just by networking, or just by like talking to people on LinkedIn or networking with them, kind of introducing ourselves. I think that that's a huge part of it as well. And we will definitely touch base on that later on. But we want to move on to the next part of the resume, which is the leadership and activities. You kind of touched based on it, but I also want to talk about how important it is. Any volunteer experience you have, any kind of like, if you have helped your school after school or anything like that, that's really a good experience, or just a good activity to put on it. So and it shows the companies that you will be also involved in their company. Just so from my company, I can tell that we have so many activities like that on ourselves as well, and I try to be as involved as well. So I think that it shows if you have that in your resume, that you will be involved with them as well, and that you are just an active person and not just like not doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have that experience. And another one is just additional information. A lot of the times people kind of skip this because they think that it's not important. It's just like, I would rather put like more of my experiences, but I think that it's so important to have some of the other skills you have, or the languages you speak, or your interest, like what do you like to, like your hobbies. It can literally be something, that you really enjoy, just so, they get a kind of an idea of you. I actually have had so many cases where in an interview, we just randomly started talking about the fact that I love playing tennis, and they play tennis too, or that they enjoy soccer, or their daughter went to play soccer as well. It's kind of like a good conversation opener,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Voice is not
also
recognized.
another times, oh my god, another case is where you know, they're like, "Oh, you speak Uzbek. Where is that from?" Like, tell me more about it. I want to know. That could be like a really good case too. So I have had that in so many cases.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really good to have that.
No, I fully agree with you. Honestly, this, as I said, is not my most up to date resume, but I have added an interest section as well, just because of how many times I've heard people, interview or recruiters when you do these sessions where you talk about resumes. They really like to see that interest section where they get to know you as a person outside of work, outside of these responsibilities. What do you do for fun? And in fact, when I am networking with people, who are higher up in the company, I always ask them, what do you do outside of work? What do you do for fun? And they enjoy getting asked that question because, we're so into our jobs. We're always running around. People don't usually ask you things like this. They just want to get straight to the point. So it is a very great bonding point. And when it comes to languages, it's also, as Shahlo said, it's amazing because it helps you establish connections, but it also speaks to your background, right? If you speak
Hmm.
multiple languages, you are, that then you're a diversified person. That has multiple different uh, languages on their back. And to me personally, um, just because I speak a couple of languages, I feel like just my mindset and the way I view the world has changed by each language that I speak. So since I speak Russian, I am able to understand people's perspectives of a lot of
Hmm.
Russian speakers and kind of bond with them, similar to Uzbek. And I wanted to process, I guess, of learning Spanish, and I feel a little more connected to that culture when I learn the language. So it really, if you speak any other languages, other than one your native language, definitely added. It's a big plus.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
For
also
sure.
we went over leadership skills too. Just wanted to add that part is very important. If you have nothing to add under leadership or extracurricular activities, it's a sign that you should go and try to get involved in something outside
Hmm.
of your direct school or work experience. Because as Shakhlo said, nowadays it's not enough to be an expert in your field. You need to be well rounded because companies are changing so much. Like personally, Wells Fargo right now is undergoing so much change. Most companies are technological advancements. All the time they're introducing these new changes, and they want to make sure that you're a person who can take something and just go with it. You can be a leader, you can accept change, you can adapt. So when you have these experiences, leadership experiences or activity involvement on your back, it just shows that you're a well-rounded person who can succeed in diverse environments. So very important there.
Yep, for sure. And honestly, if you don't see any other like outside, like we said, go to your school, go to the student organization and say, literally, I want to be involved,
Mhm.
whether it's like helping with like books or just like some kind of random activities. I would love to help, and I think that would be really great. So I also wanted to put this next question. Um, that says, should we write the information about our manager in order to contact with them or just ask about us?
That's an interesting one. Just because I remember at some point I had like a what is it called, referral section,
Hmm.
where I had my past manager's number and name, but I don't really know if this is still done or if it's relevant as much. Any?
Yeah, I think it's when it like they ask for like references or they ask for like to like include 3 to 5 people that they can reach out to and they can contact you. And I think in those cases, it's super important to like make sure the person that you're gonna give their contact to is a good person or just like the person that they like you.
Yeah.
It's like it's important. Like you don't want to give like a a number of some random person or just like your manager from like 10 years ago that doesn't even know about you anymore. You want to make sure that you also let them know that you're giving their information to an employer and they're going to be reached out to, because in a lot of the cases they do reach out, they do reach out, they do contact to ask about you, a little bit about you. So I think that it's super important that if they ask you, you should, and you want to make sure you give the contact of somebody and they say good things about you, and you just let them know. You don't just like give it and don't even contact the other person, and they're like shocked that one day they get the call.
Who's that, right? I don't remember.
Exactly, I don't know that person.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I feel like they ask this during the application part sometimes, or most of the time, so then you don't have to include in your resume. I think in the past when I've applied, that was the case, which is why I couldn't recall having this on my resume, because they would just ask while you're filling out the application, your background, your name, all of that. They would ask for references if there's anyone they can reach out to. I'm not sure if they ever have. I don't think I've ever had a manager contact me and tell me that, hey, they reached out and I said this. But I know they do. I know there are cases, a lot of cases where they do, but maybe because I'm in this field, as I said, finance, and there's a lot of applications, maybe they don't go the extra step of doing this. But
For sure. So I think that that's pretty much about it from like the resume point that we wanted to talk, and now we want to really kind of like ask if you guys have any questions and if you have any kind of like things you want to ask us or important things that we should cover. But at the same time, we have some questions that we think that is super important that others can maybe find useful, and I'll probably put that out. And I think that one of the questions that we thought was super important was this. What are some of the important things to remember creating your resume? Like key points, I feel like, that we can, I guess, can kind of touch base on. I think that for me, the most important part is that make sure your resume is clear and clean, and it's like, well, like they know who you are, like make sure that they can contact you. And a lot of the times, if you feel like your name is a little bit longer, I know in US they do that. They also do like kind of like a write down how to spell it so that they don't have a harder time to kind of like spell your name. And also education and work experience, the most important part. Like we said, we want to make sure that you guys remember you have your what college you went to, what year you went to, what's your major. Those are 3 points that is super important. Make sure that you have to keep in mind that you have those things, and also in your work experience, make sure you have a lot of numbers, a lot of like numbers that you can show how you have added value to the company you have worked for, or like any place that you have worked for. You make sure they know that you have added value to them. So yeah, those are some of the things. And also spell check it, like super important. I mean, honestly, I am sometimes super lazy. I get like super lazy and I'm like, okay, it's fine, I know how to say it. But still, you have to make sure that you spell check it a lot of the times and make sure that the words are like correct, and you're not misspelling it, because I am a misspeller. I misspell so many things. And so it's make sure, please spell check it again and again. It's super important. Companies do care about it. They do want to make sure that you're spelling everything correctly and everything is really good. And also leadership and activity is super important. Or also, another thing, if you do have a space courses, like if you think that you don't have any kind of like good leadership experience, you can change that to classes, courses, any kind of classes you have taken that are very good, like or advanced level classes. I know I used to take college college now courses after high school, and that was some of the courses that I used to take after school. So it was kind of like a good experience to have, but that was advanced level class. So, or any kind of AP classes you have, like that could be really cool to people that are in high school now and are like trying to find, something to do after school, or just like in freshman, sophomore year of their college. So yeah, those are some of the key points. You can kind of touch base on that too, and then we will start answering questions.
I think you said everything. You stole all my points. Only one really quick thing would be when you're listing your college, just be sure to put your graduation date. Just because there are a lot of jobs where they're specifically targeting seniors, maybe, or juniors. Maybe juniors because they want to have you for longer as an intern so they can prepare you for a full time job, or they want you to be a senior if they want to hire you right off of the bat. Like once you graduate, they want to hire you. So then they may want you to be a senior. Just make sure to list that year of graduation there.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I agree with everything. I think spelling is just really important because it shows whether or not you pay attention to detail and how seriously you're taking the application.
Yep, perfect. So another one that was another question. I think that this also depends on, or just like a lot of those resumes in Uzbekistan, or I mean, some of the resumes here as well, they do have a photos. Um, I personally don't think it's necessary. I have never seen a photo resume that was like submitted for a marketing position or a finance position. So I would say that, because just to have your LinkedIn and your LinkedIn having a professional photo is enough. I think that's what you should care about, like having a professional photo in your LinkedIn and making sure that your LinkedIn is in your resume just so that they can get an idea. But I don't think it's really necessary for you to have like your photo in your resume, you
Yeah,
know?
no, I 100% agree. I never had my photo on there either. And I remember thinking I think back in the days, those were the resumes people used that I used to see. So I always thought that way. But just because, they're only solely looking at your professional experience and just like your background as a person, they don't need many of these personal details. In fact, they shouldn't be asking you about your age or your marital status or how you look. So I don't think that's necessary at all.
For sure. Another question that we have prepared for you guys was, do you have to keep your resume updated? I think that we can agree just by the fact that Shakhodat still has her resume updated is a fact that we do have to, just because you want to make sure you have your, like, you have a review with your manager at the end of the year. You keep your accomplishments updated, right? Just so you can point them out. And I think just like that, you should also have your resume always updated, and that you have all of the experiences that you have there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. As I said, I have a resume that's even more updated than this one. This one is just the one we were able to pull up. But another good tip that someone has given me was while you're working at a job, try to update your resume at the same time. So right now I'm at Wells Fargo and I really like in my, plan is to stay. But in the future, if I'm ever gonna move anywhere else, you wanna have the different things that you're working on listed out as you're working on them because down the road you might forget. Right now I'm looking back at EY and I'm having a hard time recalling every single thing that I was responsible for, every single experience that I gained. So either put it on your resume right away, or even better, keep some kind of notebook and literally write down everything you're responsible for. So when the time comes, you can all, compile it into one and put it into your resume. But also talk to your experience during the interview session because a lot of the
Mhm.
questions they ask nowadays are situational. Have you had have you had experience working in teams, or have you had a problem that you had to resolve on your own? So then you can refer back to your experiences and actually be able to recall. And as humans, we really do forget most of the things that we've learned or we've done in the past, and only keep the most important ones in mind. So it's always important to capture that somewhere so you can refer back to.
For sure. It's just like a good, I think it's like kind of like your note where you put your accomplishments in order, just so
Mhm.
you know, in any case, you can always use it. You never know what happens. So it's
Yeah.
really good to always have it updated and make sure that it's like well done. Um, Perfect. So another question that we wanted to touch base on was this question: what do employers mostly look at? But I think that we can really answer this question just based on our thing. Like, I think that after I was hired or just like working for a year now, I've realized that like most of the things that they ask from us or from our resume, it's like it makes sense. They want to know your education, they want to know that you have done well, they want to know your achievements or your classes you have taken because it helps you in the long term. So I think that it's really important to make sure that you have all those points that they're looking for. Like I think that one tip that I would also give is that if you look up the job posting, they actually point out everything that they're looking for. They're looking for this graduate from this year to this year, um, that has taken classes from here, knows how to use that, do that, right? So I think that even just having the job posting and using that to create your resume or to specify it to that role is so important. And sometimes we don't even think about that. It's like we use the same resume, apply, and expect to hear back. It's like you can't really do that. You want to make sure that like you focus in one role, and you make sure that you specify and you have all those things that they're looking for.
Yeah. I fully agree. And as we said earlier, another important thing is try to diversify your experiences as much as I can, and
Hmm.
be a well-rounded person. That is just so important, and I think it's only going to be more important going forward, because back in the days, I think getting a job was just having these basic requirements met, being a good experienced person that has good amount of experiences, that works well, did well in school. But now you have to exceed those expectations. You got to go an extra step, show yourself as a person, and try
Hmm.
to give yourself as much color as you can, as opposed to just meeting the minimum requirements. So
For sure. And we totally agree with that as well. And so another questions that we got, I think I can stop sharing my screen.
yeah.
But another question was like, I'm not sure if it's related to what we're talking about, but can we work full time with F1 visa while doing masters in USA? I mean, honestly, for me personally, I think that you definitely can find opportunities that like you can work on. Not sure if it's different states because in New York you can definitely find opportunities that that you can find and do like after work, after doing your classes if you will have time, of course. But there are definitely companies that they do accept students with F1 visa.
Yeah, I think you responded to that pretty well, because I'm not very well aware with just like visa how that works, but I know different companies vary from company to company and have different visa
Hmm.
requirements. But when talking about in general working and doing masters, at the same time, I know of a lot of people who do that, and I think that has become easier after COVID, since now there are a lot of remote opportunities or
Hmm.
opportunities to take classes at night while you work during the day. And I personally know of a lot of people who do that, and I know it's hard, but it's doable if you're dedicated to it.
For sure, honestly, like it is, yes, it can be difficult to get land an opportunity while being in visa. It is very difficult, but I think that once you have that opportunity, it will be super easy. And we will definitely try to have some of the people that do that in Uzbek diaspora as well. We will try to bring students who are doing F1 visa and doing their masters and to kind of give tips on that as well. So keep following us and watching us.
Mhm.
A little bit of ad.
Yeah. No, we're
Advertisement.
getting so excited with these events that we're coming up with. So we're just if you have any ideas too, if there's anything specific you guys want to see, um, feel free to let us know. We are so far thinking of maybe personal branding or networking sessions. So if any new ideas come up, feel free to shoot that our way. And one more thing, and we will wrap up soon. So if you have any last minute questions, please send them our way. And if you have
Yes.
any questions come up later down the road too, feel free to send those to our, any of our platforms on social media or our personal pages. And with that being said, also feel free to send your resume if you want us to look over it. I can actually go ahead if you send it to our Instagram or Facebook, just send it to us in a file format. I'm not sure if Instagram lets you do that, or a picture. And we can gladly take a look at it and review it and give you some feedback. So
Hmm.
just throwing it out there. That's
For
something
sure.
helpful.
Yes, this is only the beginning of kind of our webinar kind of talks, and in the future we want to go, of course, in more depth of resume networking and some of the do's and don'ts, and also interviews. Those can be like super stressful for a lot of students. I remember myself being super stressed about like having an interview. It can be very difficult, but we are super excited to kind of host more events. So if you have any other questions, please always send it our way. We're always here to help. But yeah, any last thing
Yeah, a
you
couple
wanted
of
to add?
questions. I think we responded to similar ones, but we could respond again. This one that says, what do you recommend for someone who doesn't really have work experience and will soon graduate? So you could definitely watch. We talked about this earlier. Someone else asked the same question, and um, putting it into one, we were just talking about how any person, if you really think into it, you must have some kind of experience. Maybe it's not, a regular 9 to 5 or a regular, normal part-time job, but you may try to put other experiences that you have. Maybe you've tutored someone, or you've been involved in some kind of school organization, and maybe you were in a leadership role, and try to put those as a work experience. Just try to think of it as like, is there anything I've been involved with that helped me improve or get, progress as a person and made me better or gave me some kind of experience, and try to put that in. If you still have time, you said you're soon graduating, but if you still have time to get some kind of experience before you graduate, whether
Mhm.
that's volunteering, getting involved with a paid or non-paid internship, try to get that so you can add it to your resume.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. And also, if you do not have any work experience yet and you're graduating soon, you can definitely take some other classes as well. Like, I know a lot of people that want to be in IT, they kind of take additional IT courses, and there are a lot of Coursera courses that you can take. You can learn from, and start applying there. But if you think that, oh, I don't have experience, then start it right now. Start applying, even if it's unpaid. One other thing, even if it's unpaid, you will get an experience. So it's definitely good to, accept that opportunity and at least maybe work for 12 months, 6 months, until you can get something that's paid, because nothing starts with like, we have also done unpaid internships. I remember myself doing unpaid internships and working after, working two jobs. Like, it was definitely super hard, but I think that once you get to that point, it pays off, definitely. Now, I feel much better that I worked and have done all of those like extracurricular activities in the past because it has worked paid off. So definitely keep that in mind, that there are unpaid opportunities or volunteer opportunities that you can get extra experience from and put in your resume. Yeah, you just have to really work on your like interview skills, I guess, also being more confident on the way you talk, so I think that you have to include those things as well.
Yeah. And I see someone asked for our Telegram channel. So we'll send you the link. I just sent it to you, Shaklo, in the private chat. So just feel free to share that
Got it.
with the person that needs it. And we are almost on all social media pages, if not all, I think. So you'll be able to find us on Telegram, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We even have a TikTok, but we haven't been actively running it. So that's the only platform where we're not active, but other than that, we are everywhere. So yeah, well,
Everywhere.
welcome guys. I see we're getting a lot of thank you comments. Thank you for joining and tuning in. Appreciate
Yes.
your engagement. Yeah, do you have any closing remarks, Shakhlo? I think
I
that we
think
wrap it up.
Yeah, honestly, I just wanted to thank everyone for being patient and always supporting us. We are definitely super, super grateful for this opportunity. And we are really working really super hard to make sure we have more of these events. Me and Shakhodat have been like waiting to have this event and really share our ideas and, like some of the tips that can be super helpful to others. So we are super grateful to have this like platform to share those things. And in the future, we are definitely working on more ideas such as interviews, tips and tricks and other things. So keep following us and watching us.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. As Shahla said, we love when we get engagement from you guys, when we see that you're benefiting from these sessions, and when you say, thank you, this was so helpful. It just motivates us to do more of this because, as you guys know, this is something we just do on the side to benefit our community, to be impactful members of our Uzbek community. So, really love getting that support from you guys. Just keep being great, keep improving, working on yourself. We believe in you, and we have more events coming your way. So thank you so much for tuning in today.
Thanks, everyone. We can't wait to come back again. Have more events.